The snow came down like a white curtain, thick and relentless. Mira Jensen gripped the steering wheel of her old Honda, squinting through the windshield as the wipers fought a losing battle. She had driven this mountain road 100 times before, but never in weather like this. Her phone had died 20 minutes ago. The heater was making a sound that worried her. And somewhere between the last town and her destination, she had clearly taken a wrong turn. The road curved sharply, and Mira felt her tires lose grip. Her heart jumped into her throat as the car slid sideways, spinning once before coming to a stop against a snowbank. The engine sputtered and died. For a long moment, she just sat there, hands still clutching the wheel, breath coming in short bursts. The silence was absolute, except for the howling wind outside. She tried the ignition. Nothing. Again, still nothing. Mira closed her eyes and tried to think. She was a practical woman. She had grown up taking care of her sick grandfather, working 2 jobs through college, building a career out of pure determination. Panic was a luxury she could not afford. She pulled her coat tighter, stepped out into the storm. The cold hit her like a physical blow. Within seconds, her cheeks were burning and her fingers were going numb. She could barely see 10 feet ahead through the swirling snow. But there, in the distance, she caught a glimpse of light. Warm and golden through the white chaos, Mira started walking. It took her nearly 30 minutes to reach the source of that light. By then, her lips were blue and her whole body was shaking. But when she finally stood before the massive iron gates, she forgot the cold entirely. The estate behind those gates was enormous. A sprawling mansion of stone and glass, perched on the mountainside like something from a fairy tale. Every window glowed with warm light, promising heat and safety. Mira pressed the intercom button with frozen fingers. Static crackled. Then a voice, deep and impatient. "Who is it?" "Please," Mira managed through chattering teeth. "My car broke down. I am freezing. I just need to use a phone." Long pause. So long that Mira thought she might have to turn back and face the storm again. Then the gates swung open. She stumbled up the long driveway, her legs barely cooperating. The front door opened before she reached it, revealing a tall man in a dark suit. "Come in," he said simply, stepping aside. The warmth hit her like a wave. Myra stood in the marble foyer, dripping snow onto what was probably a very expensive floor, and tried to remember how to feel her face. "The master will see you in the study," the man said. "Follow me." Mira wanted to ask questions, but her teeth were still chattering too hard to speak properly. She followed the suited man down a long hallway lined with paintings that probably cost more than her. The study was a beautiful room. Dark wood and leather furniture, a fireplace crackling with real flames, bookshelves reaching to the ceiling. But Myra barely noticed any of it. Her eyes were fixed on the man by the fire. He sat in a wheelchair, positioned to face the flames. Even seated, she could tell he was tall. Broad shoulders filled out a simple black sweater. His hair was dark, almost black, swept back from a face that was almost unfairly handsome. Sharp jaw, straight nose, lips that looked like they had forgotten how to smile. But it was his eyes that stopped her. Gray like storm clouds, and when they turned to look at her, she felt pinned in place. "You picked a bad night to get lost," he said. His voice was low and rich, with an edge of something that might have been amusement or annoyance. She could not tell which. "I did not exactly plan it," Mira said, finally finding her voice. "My car died. I just need to call a tow truck." "In this storm?" He gestured toward the window where snow was still falling heavily. "Nothing is getting through until morning at least. You will have to stay."
Yes.
It was not an invitation. It was a statement of fact. Mira stiffened. "I appreciate the shelter, but I cannot just stay in a strange man's house." Those gray eyes flickered with something. Interest, maybe. Or surprise that anyone would push back. "I'm Dominic Ashford," he said. "And this is my home. You are welcome to freeze outside if you prefer, but I would rather not have your death on my property." "The paperwork is tedious." Mira stared at him. Dominic Ashford. She knew that name. Everyone knew that name. Tech billionaire, media recluse, rumored to have disappeared from public life 3 years ago after some kind of accident. The tabloids had run wild with theories. Now she understood the wheelchair. And the isolation? I am Myra Jensen, she said finally. I am a physical therapist. Something changed in his expression. The shuttered look that had been there since she walked in shifted slightly, revealing a crack of vulnerability beneath. A therapist, he repeated slowly. How convenient. It's just what I do for a living. I am not here to analyze you. Everyone analyzes me. His voice had gone flat. They look at the chair and make assumptions. They see the money and make more. So tell me, Myra Jensen, what assumptions are you making right now? Myra considered the question. She looked at his hands, strong and capable, gripping the arms of his wheelchair. She looked at his face, beautiful but guarded. She looked at the way he held himself, like a man who had been hurt badly and was determined never to show it. I think you are lonely, she said quietly. I think you built this fortress to keep people out because someone hurt you. And I think you are testing me right now to see if I will run. The silence stretched between them, thick and charged. Then Dominic laughed. It was a short, surprised sound, like he had forgotten he knew how to make it. You are either very brave or very foolish, he said. Probably both, Myra admitted. The corner of his mouth twitched. Almost a smile. The guest room is on the second floor. James will show you the way. We can discuss your situation in the morning. Myra nodded and turned to follow the suited man, James, back toward the door. But Dominic's voice stopped her. Miss Jensen. She looked back. His gray eyes held hers, and for a moment she saw something raw there. Something hungry and afraid and desperately human. Thank you, he said quietly. For not pretending you do not see the chair? Myra held his gaze. The chair is not what I see when I look at you. She left before he could respond, but she felt his eyes on her all the way down the hall. And as she climbed the stairs to the guest room, her heart was beating faster than it should have been. She told herself it was just the cold wearing off. She told herself it was just relief at finding shelter. She was lying because something had sparked in that study. Something dangerous and exciting and terrifying all at once. And as she lay in the soft guest bed, listening to the storm rage outside, Myra knew her life was about to change. She just did not know how much. The morning light came soft and gray through the tall windows. Myra woke slowly, disoriented for a moment by the unfamiliar ceiling above her. Then the memories of the night before came rushing back. The storm, the estate, the man with the storm cloud eyes. She sat up and looked around the guest room properly for the first time. It was elegant, but impersonal, like a luxury hotel suite. The kind of room designed for people who were not meant to stay long. A knock at the door made her jump. Miss Jensen. It was James, the suited man from last night. Mr. Ashford requests your presence at breakfast. Myra found fresh clothes laid out on a chair near the wardrobe. Simple things, a cream sweater and dark pants that fit her surprisingly well. She did not want to think about how Dominic had known her size. The dining room was as impressive as the rest of the house. A long table that could seat 20 people, though only 2 places were set at one end. Dominic was already there, positioned at the head of the table, a cup of coffee in his hand. He looked different in the daylight. Still handsome, still guarded, but there were shadows under his eyes that suggested he had not slept well. Or maybe that he never slept well. The storm has passed, he said without greeting. But the roads will not be clear until this afternoon. Your car has been towed to a garage in town. Myra sat down across from him. Thank you. How much do I owe you for the tow? Nothing. His tone made it clear the subject was closed. Eat, you must be hungry, she was. The breakfast spread before her was more food than she usually saw in a week. Fresh fruit, eggs, pastries, things she could not even name. She ate carefully, aware of his eyes on her the whole time. You said you were a physical therapist, Dominic said finally. Where do you work? A rehabilitation center about 2 hours from here. I was driving home from a conference when I got lost. He set down his coffee cup. That is quite a commute from wherever you were heading. Myra hesitated. She did not like talking about her personal life with strangers. But something about the way he asked, direct, and without false politeness, made her want to answer honestly. I was visiting my mother and grandfather. My grandfather has dementia. He needs full-time care, and the good facilities are expensive. So I take extra shifts whenever I can. Dominic's expression did not change, but something in his eyes softened slightly. That must be difficult. It is what it is. Myra shrugged. Family takes care of family. He was quiet for a long moment, staring at his coffee like it held answers to questions he had not asked yet. I have had 7 physical therapists in the past 3 years, he said suddenly. They all quit. Some lasted weeks. Some lasted days. The longest managed 4 months before she decided the money was not worth dealing with me. Mira raised an eyebrow. Are you trying to scare me away? I am trying to be honest. He looked up, and there was that raw vulnerability again, hidden beneath layers of armor. I am not an easy patient. I am angry and bitter, and I do not believe that any amount of therapy will change my situation. But my doctors insist I need someone, and apparently, I keep driving them away. Why are you telling me this? Because I would like to offer you a job. The words hung in the air between them. Mira stared at him, certain she had misheard. You do not know anything about me, she said slowly. I know you drove into a blizzard to visit your sick grandfather. I know you did not panic when your car broke down in the middle of nowhere. I know you looked at me last night and saw a person, not a problem to be solved or a paycheck to be collected. He leaned forward slightly. And I know you need money for your grandfather's care. Myra's hands tightened on her napkin. How do you know that? I looked you up this morning. You work at a mid-tier facility for average pay. You have student loans, and you send money home every month. You are barely keeping your head above water. His voice was not unkind, just factual. I can pay you 3 times what you make now. You would live here, have your own suite, access to anything you need. All I ask is that you work with me daily and tolerate my terrible personality. It was insane. She should say no. She should thank him for his hospitality and go back to her normal life. But she thought about her grandfather, confused and frightened more often than not. She thought about her mother, exhausted from caregiving. She thought about the bills piling up on her kitchen counter. I would need to meet with you properly first, she heard herself say. Assess your condition. See if I can actually help. Something flickered across Dominic's face. Hope, maybe, or fear disguised as hope. Then stay a few more days. Consider it a trial period. If you decide to leave, I will pay for your car repairs and your trouble. Mira should have said no. Every rational part of her brain was screaming that this was a bad idea, that getting entangled with a billionaire recluse could only end badly, but she looked into those gray eyes and saw something she recognized. Loneliness, the kind that went bone deep. The kind she felt herself sometimes, late at night when her apartment was too quiet. All right, she said. A trial period. The days that followed were unlike anything Myra had experienced. Dominic was indeed a difficult patient. He was impatient with exercises he considered pointless. He snapped at her when she pushed too hard. He retreated into cold silence when she got too close to anything emotional, but she did not quit. And slowly, so slowly, he began to open up. She learned that his paralysis was the result of a car accident 3 years ago, that he had been driving too fast on a mountain road, trying to escape something he would not name, that the doctors had said he would never walk again, and he had accepted that verdict like a death sentence. She learned that he had built his tech empire from nothing, working 18-hour days since he was 20 years old. That success had brought him money, but not happiness. That before the accident, he had been engaged to a woman who left him the moment she saw the wheelchair. No. She said she could not be with half a man. Dominic told her one night, his voice bitter. They were in the study, the fire crackling low, both of them nursing glasses of wine. Those were her exact words. Half a man. Mira felt anger burn in her chest. She was wrong, was she? He laughed, but there was no humor in it. I cannot walk. I cannot dance. I cannot do half the things a normal man can do. You can think. You can feel. You can create. You've built something incredible with your mind and your will. Mira set down her glass and looked at him directly. Your legs do not define you, Dominic. They never did. He stared at her for a long moment. The firelight played across his features, softening the hard edges. And then, so quietly she almost missed it, he whispered, "No one has ever said that to me before." "Then everyone you know is blind." The tension between them was impossible to ignore now. It had been building since that first night, growing stronger with every therapy session, every late-night conversation, every accidental brush of hands. Mira knew she was getting too close. She knew it was unprofessional. But she could not seem to stop herself. 2 weeks into her trial period, she found Dominic in his office, staring at a computer screen with a dark expression. "What is wrong?" she asked from the doorway. He did not answer at first. Then he turned his chair to face her, and she saw something she had never seen in his eyes before. Fear. "My head of security found something," he said slowly. "About the accident. The car that hit me that night. It was not random. The driver was paid." Mira felt the blood drain from her face. "Paid by who?" "Someone on my board. A man named Vincent Hale. He has wanted control of my company for years. Apparently he decided the easiest way to get it was to remove me permanently." Dominic's hands clenched on the arms of his chair. He failed. But he did not stop trying. "What do you mean?" "There have been incidents. Small things I dismissed as accidents. Equipment malfunctions. Security breaches." His eyes met hers, and the fear there had transformed into something harder. "Someone has been watching this house, Mira. Watching me. And now that you are here, they might be watching you too." The words settled over her like ice water. She thought about all the times she had felt eyes on her during walks on the grounds. All the times security cameras seemed to follow her movements a beat too long. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked. "Because you deserve to know the danger you are in." He wheeled closer to her, close enough that she could see the rapid pulse in his throat. "And because if you want to leave, I will understand. I will not blame you." "This is not your fight." Mira looked at him. At this proud, wounded man who had opened his doors to her, who had let her see past his walls, who was now trying to push her away to keep her safe. "You are right," she said softly. "This is not my fight." She saw the flash of pain in his eyes before he could hide it. "But I am making it my fight," she continued, "because I do not run from hard things. And because, whether you want to admit it or not, you need someone in your corner." Dominic stared at her. "Why? You barely know me." "I know enough." She stepped closer, close enough to touch if she dared. "I know you are stubborn and infuriating and terrible at asking for help. I know you have been alone for too long. And I know that somewhere under all that armor, there is a man worth fighting for." The air between them crackled with something electric. Dominic reached out, his hand finding hers, his fingers warm and strong. "Mira," he breathed. Just her name, but it sounded like a prayer. And then the fire alarm screamed to life. The smoke came from everywhere at once. Mira's training kicked in before her. Panic could take hold. She grabbed Dominic's wheelchair and started pushing toward the door. But the hallway was already filling with thick gray clouds. "The West Wing," Dominic shouted over the alarm. "There is an exit through the library." They moved as fast as they could, but the smoke was getting thicker. Mira's lungs burned. Her eyes watered. Behind them, she could hear the roar of flames growing stronger. The library doors were closed, but not locked. Mira shoved them open and pushed Dominic through, then slammed them shut behind her. The room was clearer here, the smoke not yet penetrated this far. "The window," Dominic said, pointing. "It leads to a terrace. From there we can reach the garden." Mira ran to the window and threw it open. Cold air rushed in, sharp and clean, after the choking smoke. She turned back to Dominic. "Can you transfer yourself?" "I will have to." His jaw was set, his eyes fierce despite the danger. "Help me get close." Together, they maneuvered his chair to the window. Dominic gripped the frame and pulled himself forward, his arms straining with the effort. Mira supported him as best she could, her hands on his back, steadying him as he swung his legs over the sill. He landed on the terrace with a grunt of pain, but he was out. Mira climbed through after him, scraping her palms on the stone as she scrambled to his side. "Can you move?" she asked urgently, not fast enough. He looked back at the window where smoke was already beginning to curl through. "Go get help. I will be fine. I am not leaving you." "Mira, be reasonable." "I am being reasonable." She crouched beside him, wrapping his arm around her shoulders. "You weigh about 200 pounds, and I have been lifting patients for 6 years. Now shut up and let me help you." She did not give him time to argue. With a strength born of adrenaline and sheer stubbornness, she hauled him up, taking most of his weight on her shoulder. They moved awkwardly, painfully slow, but they moved. The garden steps were the hardest part. Myra's muscles screamed in protest. Her back felt like it might give out at any moment, but she did not stop. She could not stop. Finally, blessedly, they reached the grass. Mira lowered Dominic down as gently as she could manage before collapsing beside him, gasping for breath. Behind them, the west wing of the mansion was fully engulfed in flames. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. James appeared from somewhere, phone pressed to his ear, already coordinating with emergency services. Other staff members were gathering on the lawn, some coughing, all shaken, but Myra's attention was fixed on Dominic. He was staring at the burning building with an expression she could not read. Not despair. Not anger. Something deeper. "Dominic," she said softly. He turned to look at her. The firelight reflected in his eyes, orange and gold dancing across gray. "You saved me," he said. His voice was rough from smoke, but there was wonder in it. "You could have run. You could have saved yourself. But you stayed?" "Of course I stayed." "Why?" The word cracked, raw and vulnerable. "Why would you risk your life for someone like me?" Mira reached out and took his face in her hands. Her palms were scraped and dirty, but he leaned into her touch like it was the most precious thing he had ever felt. "Because I love you," she said simply. "Because somewhere between your terrible attitude and your midnight confessions and your stubborn refusal to believe you are worth anything, I fell completely in love with you. And I would rather die trying to save you than live knowing I let you burn." The words hung between them, heavy with truth. Dominic's breath caught. His hands came up to cover hers, trembling slightly. "Mira."
Ow.
His voice broke on her name. "I do not deserve you. That is not for you to decide. I am broken. I am damaged. I have enemies who just tried to kill us both. I know." She smiled through the tears suddenly streaming down her cheeks. "I do not care." He pulled her closer then, crushing her against his chest. His arms wrapped around her like he was afraid she might disappear if he let go. And when his lips found hers, the kiss tasted like smoke and salt and something that felt remarkably like hope. The fire burned for hours. By the time the firefighters brought it under control, the west wing was nothing but charred ruins. But the rest of the mansion stood, scarred but surviving, just like them. The investigation was swift. The fire had been arson, set deliberately at multiple points around the wing where Dominic's bedroom was located. Someone had wanted to make sure he did not escape, that someone was Vincent Hale. Mira sat beside Dominic in his study, now serving as a temporary command center, as his head of security laid out the evidence. Phone records, financial trails, a hired arsonist who had been caught trying to flee the scene and was now cooperating with police. "He will be arrested within the hour," the security chief said. "The case is solid. He is not getting away with this." Dominic nodded, his expression unreadable. But under the table, his hand found Mira's and held on tight. After everyone left, they sat in silence for a long moment. The fire in the hearth crackled softly, a gentler flame than the one that had nearly killed them. "It is over," Mira said quietly. "Damned is over," Dominic agreed. He turned his chair to face her fully, his eyes searching her face. "But I hope nothing else is over. I hope this is just the beginning." "What do you mean?" He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Myra's heart stopped. "I have been carrying this for 3 days," he admitted. "I was going to wait. Find the perfect moment. But tonight reminded me that perfect moments are not guaranteed. He opened the box to reveal a simple but beautiful diamond ring. Myra Jensen, you walked into my life during a storm, and you have been turning everything upside down ever since. You see me for who I am, not what happened to me. You stayed when everyone else left. You saved my life in more ways than one. His voice trembled, but his gaze held steady. I know I am asking for a lot. I know my life is complicated and dangerous, and nothing like what you planned. But I love you. I love you more than I thought I could love anyone. And if you will have me, chair and all, I promise to spend the rest of my life making you happy. Myra could not speak. Tears blurred her vision as she looked at the ring, at the man holding it, at the future stretching out before them. She finally managed. Yes, 1,000 times yes. Dominic's face transformed. The guarded expression that had been there since she first met him melted away completely, replaced by pure, radiant joy. He slid the ring onto her finger with shaking hands, then pulled her into his lap for a kiss that spoke of forever. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dominic pressed his forehead to hers. Can you feel how much I care for you? He whispered. Myra laughed through her tears and kissed him again. I can feel it, she said. I have always been able to feel it. Outside the window, the first light of dawn was breaking over the mountains. The damaged wing of the mansion stood in ruins. But new construction would begin soon, rebuilding, growing, becoming something stronger than before, just like them. 6 months later, Myra stood on the terrace of their newly renovated home, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and pink. Behind her, she could hear Dominic on the phone, finalizing the details of a new charitable foundation they were launching together, one that would provide resources for people with disabilities and their families. Her grandfather was in a beautiful facility now, the best care money could buy. Her mother had moved to a cottage on the estate grounds, close enough to visit every day. The life she had scraped and struggled for had transformed into something she never dared to dream. Dominic wheeled up beside her, his phone finally silent. He reached for her hand and she gave it willingly. Happy? He asked. She looked at him. At the man who had been a stranger in a storm, who had become her patient, her friend, her lover, her husband, whose walls she had broken down, whose heart she had healed. More than I ever thought possible, she said. He smiled, that real smile she had worked so hard to earn. Good, he said, because this is only the beginning. And as the sun sank below the horizon, Myra knew he was right. Their story was just starting, and it was going to be beautiful.